Garrett Mitchell sat in the infield care center. His head hurt, his ribs hurt, everything hurt. The crash at Daytona had been bad, really bad. He'd been running mid-pack in the ARCA race, learning, improving. Then the big one happened. Cars spinning everywhere. Nowhere to go. He'd hit the wall at 180 miles per hour. The safety crew had extracted him carefully, checked him over. Now he sat on an exam table while doctors assessed damage. Bruised ribs, possible concussion. You're lucky, the doctor said. Lucky. Garrett didn't feel lucky. He felt like he'd been hit by a truck, or 43 of them. His phone was blowing up. Text messages, calls, social media notifications. His YouTube channel had 3.2 million subscribers. They all wanted to know if he was okay. But there was one message that mattered more than the others. From his wife Emily. I watched it happen. I thought you were dead. Please call me. Garrett called. She answered before the first ring finished. Are you okay? Her voice was shaking. Bruised. Banged up. But okay. You need to come home. This is too dangerous. We talked about this. Racing is what I do. YouTube is what you do. Racing is a hobby that's going to get you killed. It's more than a hobby now. I have sponsors, a team, a shot at running Cup next year, a shot at dying. That's what you have. The line went quiet. Garrett knew this conversation. They'd had it before. Every time he crashed, every time something went wrong, Emily wanted him to quit, to stick with YouTube, to stay safe. But racing meant everything to him. More than views, more than sponsorships, more than money. Racing was the dream he'd chased since he was a kid. We'll talk when I get home, Garrett said. I love you. I love you too. But Garrett, this can't keep happening. Garrett returned to his hotel room. His crew chief James was there, waiting. You need to see something, James said. He pulled up a video on his laptop. It was the crash, from multiple angles. In-car camera showed Garrett's perspective, the wall of cars ahead. No escape. The impact. The car tumbling. Violent. Horrifying. That's been viewed 2 million times already, James said. On your channel alone. Every media outlet is covering it. You're trending on Twitter. Great. Famous for crashing. No. Famous for walking away. People are calling it a miracle, saying the safety equipment saved your life. Garrett watched the replay again. The car had been destroyed, crushed. If this had happened 20 years ago, he'd be dead. No question. The team wants to know if you're running next week. Talladega. Talladega, another superspeedway, another high-speed track where crashes happened regularly. I don't know yet. Sponsors are nervous. They signed up for a YouTube personality racing cars, not for constant crashes and medical evaluations. I'm learning. Crashes happen when you're learning. They happen when you're running too aggressive, when you're trying to prove you belong, when you're racing above your skill level. That stung because it was true. Garrett had been pushing, trying to show he was more than a YouTuber playing racer, trying to prove he deserved to be there. But pushing had consequences, and today those consequences had almost killed him. I'll decide about Talladega tomorrow, Garrett said. James nodded. Your call. But think about what you're risking, and what you're gaining, because right now the risk seems higher than the reward. Garrett couldn't sleep. He lay in the dark hotel room thinking about numbers. 2 million views of the crash video. His regular videos averaged 800,000. The crash had triple engagement. More comments, more shares, more new subscribers. His channel made good money, really good money, 6 figures monthly, from ad revenue and sponsorships. He could live comfortably making YouTube videos about cars, about racing, about anything automotive. But actually racing? That was expensive. A full ARCA season cost $500,000 minimum. Cup racing would be millions. Even with sponsors, he was barely breaking even. So financially, racing made no sense. The risk-reward calculation was terrible. High risk, low reward, potential death or injury. For what? A chance to finish mid-pack in NASCAR? But numbers didn't capture everything. Didn't capture the feeling of 200 mph. Didn't capture wheel-to-wheel racing. Didn't capture crossing the finish line knowing you'd competed against the best. Those feelings weren't rational, weren't logical, were dangerous, but real. Garrett thought about Feynman, the physicist, who'd written a letter to his dead wife years after she died, knowing she'd never read it, knowing it made no logical sense, but doing it anyway, because some things transcend logic. Racing was like that. Transcended logic, transcended safety, transcended rational decision-making. But Emily's fear was rational. Her desire for him to be safe was reasonable. Her request that he quit was logical. So what did he choose? Logic or passion? Safety or dreams? Life with Emily or life in racing? His phone rang. His dad. Saw the crash. You okay? Yeah. Sore but okay. Your mom wants you to quit. Says it's too dangerous. What do you think? His dad was quiet. Then I think you're chasing something that might kill you. I also think if you quit now you'll regret it forever. So I can't tell you what to do, but I'll support whatever you decide. That didn't help. Garrett wanted clear direction. Wanted someone to make the choice for him. But this was his decision. His life. His risk. Morning brought an email from a Cup team owner. Small team. Limited budget, but legitimate. Saw your crash. Glad you're okay. We have an opening for a development driver. Part-time Cup schedule. 10 races. See how you do. If you're interested, call me. Garrett read it 3 times. This was the opportunity. The break he'd been working toward. A shot at Cup racing. At the highest level. But it came the day after his worst crash. The day his wife had begged him to quit. The day his body reminded him of mortality. Was this opportunity? Or was it a test? A final chance to choose wisely before something worse happened? He called the team owner. Rick Henderson. Ran a small operation. Survival racing. Not competitive for wins, but present. Legitimate. Thanks for the interest, Garrett said. Can I ask why me? Because you bring value beyond driving. You have a platform. Millions of fans. Sponsors want that. And honestly, you're not bad behind the wheel. Raw. Aggressive. But teachable. What's the commitment? 10 Cup races. Starting at Talladega next week. See how it goes. If it works, we talk about a full season next year. If it doesn't, no hard feelings. Can I think about it? Sure, but I need an answer by tomorrow. I have other drivers interested. Garrett hung up. This was it. The moment that determined his future. Say yes, and he was committed. Fully invested. A professional racer. Say no, and he was admitting defeat. Accepting that YouTube was his ceiling. He called Emily. Told her about the offer. Are you seriously considering this? Her voice was sharp. Angry. It's Cup racing. It's what I've been working toward. You almost died yesterday. Literally. And today you're talking about doing it again? At Talladega? The most dangerous track? The safety equipment works. I walked away. This time. What about next time? What about the crash where the equipment fails? Where you don't walk away? That could happen crossing the street. Life is risk. Don't give me that bullshit. Crossing the street doesn't involve 200 mph impacts. You're choosing to risk your life for something that doesn't even pay well. For something that takes you away from me. For something that terrifies me every time you get in the car. She was right. Completely right. Racing was selfish. Was dangerous. Was irrational. But it was also the thing he'd dreamed about since he was 8 years old. The thing that made him feel alive. The thing that mattered. I need to do this, Garrett said. I know it's scary. I know it's risky. But if I don't try, I'll always wonder. Always regret. Please understand. I understand you're choosing racing over me. That's not what I'm doing. That's exactly what you're doing. You're picking a dangerous hobby over your marriage. Over your future. Over your life. Garrett sat alone, thinking about his wife's words. About the crash. About the opportunity. About what mattered. He thought about Feynman again, about the letter to our line, about how he'd written, I know you will assure me that I am foolish and that you want me to have full happiness and don't want to be in my way. Emily wasn't trying to be in his way. She was trying to keep him alive, trying to preserve their future, trying to be rational when he was being irrational. But Feynman had also written, "But you can't help it, darling, nor can I. Some things you can't help, some passions you can't ignore, some dreams you can't abandon without losing part of yourself." Racing was that for Garrett. Irrational, dangerous, expensive, but essential, core to who he was. If he quit, he'd be safer. Emily would be happier. His life would be longer. Probably, but it wouldn't be his life. It would be a compromise, a half-life, a version of himself that had given up. And Emily would know it, would see it in his eyes, would feel the resentment, the regret, the what-ifs that would poison everything. Feynman had continued loving Arline after death, had written to her despite impossibility, had maintained connection that logic said couldn't exist. That was passion, that was love, that was human, irrational, beautiful, real. Garrett couldn't love racing less than Feynman had loved Arline, couldn't give it up without dying inside, even if dying inside was safer than dying in a crash. He called Rick Henderson. "I'm in. I'll drive Talladega." "Great. We'll get paperwork started." Then he called Emily. "I'm taking the Cup ride." Silence. "Then I can't watch you die. I won't." "You won't have to. I'll be careful. I'll be safe. You'll be at Talladega, at 200 mph, in a pack of cars. There is no safe." "I know, but I have to do this. Please don't make me choose between you and racing. You already chose. You chose racing." She hung up. Garrett sat holding his phone, feeling like he'd just crashed again. But this time the impact was emotional, was relational, was potentially permanent. Had he made the right choice? He didn't know. Wouldn't know until it was too late to change. All he knew was that racing mattered. More than safety, more than logic, more than comfort. And he couldn't pretend otherwise, couldn't fake indifference, couldn't give it up and stay whole. So he'd race, would risk everything, would possibly lose everything, but would do it as himself. Fully, completely, without compromise. That was the only way he knew how to live. Garrett spent the week preparing, physical therapy for his ribs, meetings with the team, learning the car, learning the procedures. Talladega was different from other tracks. Restrictor plates limited horsepower, made cars run in tight packs, made crashes bigger, more spectacular, more dangerous, but also more about strategy, about drafting, about positioning, about thinking 3 moves ahead. Garrett studied film, watched how veterans raced, how they positioned themselves, how they survived. His crew chief at the new team was older, experienced, a veteran of 50 Cup seasons. "You need to understand something," he said. "Talladega isn't about being fast. It's about being smart, about staying out of trouble, about being there at the end. So I should race conservatively. You should race intelligently. There's a difference. Conservative means scared. Intelligent means calculated. Know when to push. Know when to back off. Know when the risk is worth it." "How do I know?" "Experience, which you don't have. So you follow my instructions." "Exactly. No improvisation. No YouTube hero moves. You do what I say when I say it." Garrett bristled at that. He wasn't used to following orders. On YouTube, he was in charge, made his own decisions, did things his way. But this wasn't YouTube, this was Cup racing. And he was the rookie, the outsider, the YouTuber trying to prove he belonged. "I'll follow your lead," he said. "Good. Because if you don't, you'll crash, or get someone else crashed. And then your Cup career ends before it starts." Talladega was massive. The stands held 80,000 people. The track was 2.66 miles around. The speeds were insane. Garrett sat in his car during pre-race, heart pounding, hands sweating. This was it, his Cup debut. Everything he'd worked for, everything he'd risked. He thought about Emily. She hadn't returned his calls, hadn't answered texts, was either punishing him or protecting herself. Maybe both. He thought about the crash at Daytona, about impact, about violence, about how quickly things went wrong. The cars fired, the crowd roared, and Garrett joined the pack. The speed was overwhelming. 200 mph with cars inches apart. Front, back, sides. No room for error. No margin for mistakes. His spotter talked constantly, telling him positions, gaps, threats. Garrett tried to process it all, tried to stay calm, tried to remember his training. The race unfolded in stages. Garrett ran mid-pack, learning, watching, staying out of trouble. His crew chief's voice was steady, calm, guiding him. Car high, 3 wide, hold your line. Gap opening low, take it if you're comfortable. Big one behind you, stay straight. Crashes happened. Big crashes, cars destroyed, drivers walking away, the safety equipment doing its job, proving these cars were safer than ever, but still terrifying. Garrett survived each incident, drove through debris, avoided spinning cars, stayed focused. With 10 laps left, he was running 20th. Respectable for a debut. Safe, smart. Then his crew chief said, "We have a shot at top 15 if you push. Your call." Garrett had a choice. Play it safe, finish 20th, survive, or push, risk everything, try for a better result. He thought about Feynman, about the letter, about doing irrational things, because they mattered, because passion transcended logic. "I'm pushing," Garrett said. He moved up, found drafting partners, worked the pack, gained positions, 14th, 13th, 12th. With 3 laps left, the big one happened ahead. Massive crash, 20 cars involved. Red flag, race stopped. Garrett sat in his car, waiting, processing. He was 11th. The crash had eliminated cars ahead. He'd gained positions by surviving. The race restarted. 1 lap shootout. Garrett was inside. Good position. Everything on the line. Green flag. He went for it, pushed hard, drafting, moving, fighting for every position. Coming to the checkered flag. He was 10th. Top 10. In his Cup debut, at Talladega, he crossed the line and screamed. Pure joy, pure relief, pure validation. The media surrounded him. Cameras, microphones, questions about his debut, his future, his YouTube channel. Garrett answered mechanically, said the right things, thanked sponsors, thanked the team, acted professional. But inside he felt empty, because the one person he wanted to share this with wasn't there. Emily hadn't come, hadn't watched, hadn't answered when he called from victory lane. He drove home that night, 4 hours, alone with his thoughts. He'd proven himself, top 10 in his debut, better than most rookies, better than expected, but at what cost? His marriage was damaged, possibly broken. Emily had drawn a line, choose me or choose racing, and he'd chosen racing. Was a top 10 finish worth that? Was any result worth losing his wife? He pulled into his driveway at 2 a.m. The house was dark. Emily's car was gone. Inside he found a note. Garrett, I love you, but I can't do this. Can't watch you risk your life. Can't live with the fear. I'm staying at my sister's. I need time to think about what I want, about whether I can be married to someone who chooses racing over everything else. I know you love me, but you love racing more, and I'm not sure I can live with being second. Take care of yourself. Aim. Garrett sat at the kitchen table, read the note again, and felt something break inside. He'd won, had achieved his dream, had finished top 10 in his Cup debut, was a professional racer, had proven the critics wrong, but he'd lost the person who mattered most, had sacrificed his marriage for a sport, had chosen irrational passion over rational love. Feynman had written to our line, I find it hard to understand in my mind what it means to love you after you are dead, but I still want to comfort and take care of you, and I want you to love me and care for me. Garrett understood that now. Understood loving something impossible, something that couldn't love you back the same way, something that demanded everything and gave little in return. Racing was his R-line, dead to logic, alive to passion, impossible to abandon, impossible to fully possess. And like Feynman, he couldn't help loving it, couldn't help choosing it, even knowing the cost, even knowing the pain, even knowing he might lose everything else. Because some loves transcend reason, transcend safety, transcend rational choice. Racing was that for him, and he would pursue it, would sacrifice for it, would possibly die for it. Not because it made sense, but because he couldn't help it, because it was who he was, because abandoning it would mean abandoning himself. That was the truth. Hard, painful, real. He was a racer. And that meant everything, and nothing, and more than he could explain to anyone who hadn't felt it. His phone buzzed. A text from Emily. I saw the finish. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. I'm also still scared, still angry, still not sure about us, but I'm proud. You did what you said you'd do. That matters, even if I wish you'd chosen differently. Garrett read that 5 times. It wasn't forgiveness, wasn't acceptance, but it was something, a crack in the wall, a possibility. He texted back, I love you. I know I chose wrong, or right. I don't know anymore, but I love you, and I'm sorry. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, I love you too. That's why this hurts so much. And Garrett sat in his dark kitchen. Top 10 Cup driver, YouTube star, husband who'd maybe just destroyed his marriage, feeling everything and nothing, triumphant and devastated, alive and dying, just like Feynman writing to his dead wife, expressing impossible love, maintaining connection across uncrossable distance, doing irrational things because they were the only things that felt real. That was racing. That was passion. That was life lived without compromise. And Garrett wouldn't have it any other way, even if it cost him everything, even if it already had.